Well, hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I'm Tim Healy, and I'm inviting you to join me each and every Wednesday so you can be prepared to win the battle for business. Now, listen, I know you're out there. You're closing deals. You're making money. You're turning prospects into profits. That's why I have to make it worth your while with the kinds of guests that you can listen, learn, and earn from. Today's guest is going to be no exception. I can assure you of that. So as always, thanks for sharing some of your time. Thanks for being on board the Profit Express today. Now, there is a little known fact in business circles that if you meet your future business partner sharing cheap beers in college, you are destined for great success. Yes, that is right. And that is what happened to today's guest, John Liegey, along with his, at the time, future, now current business partner, Rich Vandenburgh. They met sharing cheap beers in college. But as their friendship evolved, so thankfully did their taste in beers to enjoy better beers. And their enjoyment for beers really turned into a passion for beers. And they went on, they pursued lucrative careers in advertising and law. But their friendship maintained, and so did their passion for beer. And they also had a common interest in the iconic North Fork of Long Island in a town called Greenport. And as their relationship evolved, they realized that they still had this passion for beer, and they wanted to open their own brewery. Now, what I love about entrepreneurial stories is there is always this one moment where the entrepreneurs have to look deep within themselves and realize, you know what? Now is the time that we're going to put our stack of chips and we're going to push them into the center of the table. And we're going to leave the lucrative careers in advertising and law. And we're going to pursue our passion for opening a brewery. And that's exactly what today's guest, John Liegey, did. And the reason I like to share these stories is not just that they're fun, they're exciting, and now we're on the side of talking about their success, but it's sharing these stories for you, the listener who might be in the process of thinking about their own passion, their own next big, great idea that they want to pursue, and maybe something's holding them back. Or maybe you're in the phase of being a startup. So hearing the story of today's guest, who's the co-founder of Greenport Harbor Brewing, I know is not just going to inspire you, it's going to give you some great strategies, some great food for thought as you pursue your own passions of being an entrepreneur and a small business owner. That's why I'm super excited to have on board the Profit Express today, John Liegey. John, how are you today?
I'm very good. Very good. Thank you.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure. And another little known fact, you and I are both alum of Chaminade High School here on Long Island, and that's how our paths cross. So it just goes to show what a small world we all live in, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm a few years before you, so if anybody's wondering, decent amount. So, but yes, we did go to the same school.
That's right. Maybe just a couple, but I'll take it. So it's just so interesting how you meet Rich, you're buddies in college. Of course, you're hanging out, you're enjoying beers. But let me start with this question first. When was that moment that the two of you looked at each other and said, hey, you know what? Now is the time for us to pursue having our own brewery. Take us back to that moment.
So, we basically, you encapsulated our history perfectly. Met in college. He ended up helping my brother build my grandmother's house on the North Fork, met his wife. His wife convinced him to go back to college, to law school and complete his degree.
Right.
But we would end up in the backyard drinking beer and just thought the North Fork just basically, I came from the advertising side. So from a brand value standpoint, the intrinsics of the North Fork are pretty hard to beat as far as what we could associate with and what we could build off of.
Sure.
So it was really just the backyard, and I would go back to my office in the city. He was a local lawyer, and he would drive around looking at places, and we checked out a few. And then, one day this building in Greenport, downtown Greenport, popped, and he said, "I think I found it." And we were just ready to go. We kind of part stupidity, part love of beer, part, trusting each other, as
Right.
friends. We just thought, the initial startup was kind of felt managed. It didn't feel like too insane from a startup standpoint and cost standpoint. And we're like, let's go, let's do it. I kind of really never felt in any moment like we're going to get killed on this. I thought we would do well. I was surprised when we ended up doing as well as we did. That was a happy occasion. So
A happy moment for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we were going through and we got the first building. It was 2008, so the financial collapse was kind of really starting to hum, and we closed on the building the day Lehman Brothers went under. So, yeah.
I love it.
It was kind of, we got a little bit more attention from our families then. Like, what are you doing with this money? But in a lot of ways, it helped kind of really crystallize our attack. We basically did all the work ourselves on the building.
Mm-hmm.
We spent weekends, because we had our day jobs as well.
Sure.
But we really focused on what the business plan was, watched our money, but also made sure we weren't being penny wise, pound foolish. So we got to the finish line fairly quick, thankfully, and had the brewery built out in about 8 months.
Wow, that's quick.
So yeah, it was quick, and that was 13 years ago. So I keep joking with him that I'm not sure we have the same guns that we did back then, as far as the how good our attack is, in that kind of startup mode. But 13 years ago it was a really exciting year. And I think it just felt like we can do this kind of a thing.
There's so many interesting elements already. You said, maybe there's some part stupidity involved, which a lot of times there's a lot of passion, when you make that plunge. And it's not like you guys decide to, oh, hey, I'm in advertising, I'll open an advertising firm, or I'm in law, I'll do my own law firm. Yeah. You guys made a complete right turn into a brewery. So here's a question. And plus it was 2008, the whole mortgage crisis, the financial crisis. Did you have naysayers? Was it family or friends who said, you guys are out of your mind?
No. And to credit my wife and his wife, they were both, very supportive. I think there's a lot of trust involved in Rich and I as a team, as far as how we approach things. He is very operational on the ground. I'm very kind of 30,000 feet, kind of more, marketing driven, more image driven, more brand.
Sure.
And so we just have a really great combination, not to mention the law, being in his corner is a ton of paperwork and, doing anything with alcohol. So he had that. And I just went to town on, basically all the marketing that I felt like we needed. So some of the locals, I think, thought we were a little crazy. They're like, I think they probably gave us like a year, at this. But within a few years, we heard everybody wanted to open a brewery. So out there, nobody ended up doing it. But yeah, it was. There was no real internal kind of question marks, but some people on the outside were kind of curious what the heck a craft brewery was even.
So some of the locals might have kind of shaken their heads at you, but and it's key though. The wives, both wives, seem to be very supportive though, and that's huge. That's major.
Yeah, absolutely, and even down to their kind of core kind of talent. Like my wife, I met in advertising, so she's strategy, which is perfect ad to, a business that you're really looking to be as smart and nimble and direct as possible in your communicating and where the opportunities are. And Rich's wife has more of a art background. She's, loves like interior design, things like that. So we really have a really strong team as far as what each other's kind of core talents are.
Yeah, I mean, actually, to have somebody, if you think about opening a new business, you have the advertising, the creative guy in you, you have the lawyer in Rich, and like you said, with alcohol, with permits, with buildings, contracts, so on and so forth, that certainly played well for both of you. Now, so here we are. So you have your location in Greenport. You turned it around in 8 months. Now, we've all heard about the craze that happened with people brewing beer in their basement, the weekend warriors. How do you go about brewing and creating a beer that could be a finished product on a commercial level? What went into that process? I find that very interesting.
Yeah. So the initial trio in the brewery was myself, my partner Rich, and then the third was this guy DJ Swanson, who was doing distilling for LIV on Long Island. It's Long Island vodka, and he had been a brewer in Rhode Island and Boston, and he really wanted to get back. So he was the next ad because we were working during the week, so we would show up on weekends, then head back to our day jobs on Monday morning for the first 3 years. So it was really, we definitely did some experimenting ourselves as far as, making beer, but it's safe to say that if you see me on the, in the brew house, something's wrong. Like my staff makes amazing beer and they are really good at it. And I'm good at quality control, but their brewing talents are, they just, they like how I was in advertising, how kind of nerded out I was about different companies, different ads that were being done. They embrace that from a beer standpoint. They're so well read. It's basically chemistry, and being a chef, so there's so many things that come into play when you're brewing a beer and ways that it can go off in the wrong direction, how to bring it back. And they're just so skilled that I gladly let them take the lead on all of that. So, but yeah, we hire great people. So that's really,
it's great as you're describing your brew masters, it's almost as I'm seeing your face and your reaction, like you're kind of in awe of their talent, which is pretty great to see.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Our current brewer, young guy, just, it's amazing to me. You'll kind of throw out an idea and he says yes to nearly everything because he has just this excitement about making beer. And he'll come back with stuff that is just beyond belief as far as like what he's able to pull off, what he's going after, and his way that he approaches flavor is just so restrained but present. It's not overly, kind of done, which can happen in anything, where you're building flavors up. He just has a great palate for making things that taste amazing. So
wow.
Yeah, we're super lucky.
I'd say. Now, okay. So now let's get to the point where you've made a product you're proud of. You're ready to go out and start selling it. But, I've done shows in the past with people who are in the food and beverage industry. And I don't know that sector, but I know it's very tough, very competitive. So take me back to that point, because now you got to start selling product. You got to move beer, right? If you get down to the bottom line of it all. How did you guys start selling your product? What was your model?
So it was, we kind of really went with kind of organic growth, even though from an advertising background, there was no ad campaign to really launch us. It was really to kind of establish ourselves locally, thankfully, it has gone crazy in the years since. But even back then, Greenport was a town that had a decent amount of people, going to and discovering, and we were a part of that discovery. So we very quickly got on people's radar as far as the beer we were making. And we, within 2 months, we had every single major distributor from Long Island, New York City come out to the brewery. And in 6 months, we were selling in Whole Foods in Manhattan. So it was
wait. I got into within 6 months of first selling it, you got into Whole Foods Manhattan?
Yeah. Actually,
that's tremendous.
My last gig was at Time Warner, and I was literally 8 floors above the Whole Foods that we were selling at, and would go down there at lunch and just kind of pat myself on the back and be super happy about it. But yeah, no, we just had tremendous, luck. I mean, one of my favorite phrases is, we worked hard at being lucky, but there's no doubt that luck was a strong component in the timing, where we were coming into the craft craze, which was pretty early on, as far as that second cycle of the craft brewery kind of craziness.
Sure.
That happened. So we would go around to different bars. I would go after work into the city, go talk to everybody and anybody. And we were so young and had no real kind of footing as a brewery. So there was a lot of times that I'd just be sitting at the bar for, 45 minutes to an hour, just waiting for somebody to come up and talk to me. They'd be doing what they do, in restaurants and bars. And since I had no real connection or name recognition, you'd either have immense luck, great luck at meeting people, or you would kind of run into these, moments where you're just really kind of sitting around waiting to talk to somebody.
I would imagine the Manhattan, bar restaurant scene is pretty rough. A lot of doors slammed in your face. What was that experience like?
Yeah. We're, again, very thankful for our connection to Greenport. People were aware of that town. So we went very quickly in, learning that we want to go at the best restaurants in New York. We wanted the food and beer experience to be as best as it could be. Mm-hmm. So people's experience with our product would be amazing. So we started going after that as an attack. Definitely the Irish bar in Manhattan is a well-known thing, but those guys are, experts at what they do. They're super price conscious, and they get amazing deals for, some of the big brands that they work with. And they weren't really in the early days kind of on the craft bandwagon yet. So we kind of learned very quickly to steer clear of those at the time.
Okay.
Even though since then we have had great success with some of those same bars. But at the time they were, had a different kind of, their business was just different. So,
sure.
So that we went after the high-end food places, and then we went after craft and just kind of, kept going and going and going at it. So
just grinding it out.
Grinding. Yeah. And, 13 years ago, I had more grind in me. So, but yeah.
Now, So for people who live on Long Island, you have to be aware of Greenport. It's an iconic town in the North Fork on Eastern Long Island. But for those who are listening, who don't know Greenport, here's what I would find to be very interesting, because it's Greenport Harbor Brewing. How much influence does the location of Greenport play into the beer itself?
To me, it's the internal kind of philosophy of Greenport, even though it's a very popular weekend and second home destination. Mm-hmm. The people that live here and are from here are super hardworking. It's almost more New England in a way than it is New York. They're very hardworking people, very connected to the water, very strong ideals. It is really its own kind of place in a lot of ways. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like that is again, the intrinsics of those things and the beer, because you work really hard. There's a lot better ways to make money than to brew beer. I mean, it is not an easy business. It's you're bent over hot tanks through caustics and chemicals, and it always seems romantic from the outside, but the real job of it is very intense, and long days. You get up super early.
Right.
There is always a beer at the end of the day, which is nice, but yeah. So it is. It's to me, it's those shared kind of things, with Greenport and beer making, and our version of beer making, I think really line up nicely, and it just it fits. It's just we definitely feel fortunate to have chosen Greenport, the North Fork, as our destination, as our brewery. So yeah.
So it's kind of as though the culture and the vibe that's out there just blends well with what you guys are about in the brand, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you were some of the people that know Rich and myself were kind of seen as it's a challenging business, but our thing has always been if this isn't both challenging and there's not a certain amount of fun attached to it, then why are we doing this?
Right.
It's we're and I think we kind of reflect that. We're very easygoing. We don't really, we're just easy to get along with, and we kind of think, well, why wouldn't we be, in a business like beer?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in the craft brewing business. So are the people that would be competitors in another field are actually friends of ours, and we do a lot of collaborations. We do a lot of shared ingredient swapping. Anybody who has a machine goes down, you'll share your machine with them,
Really?
stuff like that. So yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty good, and I think it's a big reason why craft is what it is. I think it's a definite benefit to our community, is that we are, share those ideals. So
this is interesting. So then, you have a regular beer, a Budweiser, for example. Then you have a craft beer such as your own. And if you talk about, obviously you're coming from the advertising world and marketing and branding. So how different is your customer profile in the craft beer world versus that of the Budweiser world?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of liken it to, I grew up in the restaurant business, and back in the early days, there were so few wine, bottles of wine that you can engage with. There was like Almaden and Mouton Cadet, if you were feeling adventurous. This is 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, all the Californians happened, and the South African wines, and it just exploded, and there was all this choice, and people started to really think about the food they were having. So, and I'm not a beer snob. Best beer is the one in front of you, whether that's one of the big beers or ours. I hope it's ours, but I think we kind of really look to get people to look for that experience of flavor, look for what they were tasting, really connect to what they were, whether it's eating or drinking or doing whatever, really kind of bring not just that experience, but the education behind it, what the specific hops are, what the, how long that beer take to brew. I think, education definitely got me excited about good beer, or a lot of good things. You just become more immersed in it. And so that's our thing, is just to really kind of build a story for behind that beer and why it is we're making it, and what you should be experiencing, and never assume that this is going to be a beer that everybody is going to immediately love. It's not. We're not looking for that kind of common thread across everyone. We're looking for these like kind of vertical ways in on different people's palates, and kind of celebrate all of those. So
Sure.
I think the thing craft gets hammered for the most, and I think it's fair, is we are a bit over indexed in IPAs, India Pale Ales. And, the person who might be jumping over from the bud side may come in and that's the beer they're offered. And they may say right away, "Ooh, that's too much for me," because it's a fairly aggressive experience from a flavor standpoint. And you might turn those people away. So I think in the last 4 or 5 years, the effort's been to kind of dimensionalize the craft experience and not make it so IPA driven, just so those bud drinkers or Miller drinkers could, kind of stick their toe in without, having to jump all the way in,
Right.
and get a sense.
So you might grab some market share from those guys.
Yeah.
Now, listen, every business out there, whether a product or a service, a consumable, the business owners like yourself the smart business owners are very focused on branding. And especially with social media, there's a lot of messages out there. There's a lot of noise out there. Since you're the one, obviously, with the advertising marketing background, what is your strategy that has worked as far as, building the brand that is Greenport Harbor Brew?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways the brand should reflect the consumer experience. So if you're engaging with us on social media, you should basically bring whatever the communication is in an innovative, very non-mass way, kind of come in a unique way and try to present that kind of way of life. One of the things we do that's coming up actually is we have this, dog jumping weekend, and we're very dog friendly at the brewery and very kid friendly, because we have kids and we have dogs. It's not that, deep a dive to figure out why we are, but we are.
It's who you are, yeah.
And it is like, so we do this dog jumping every June that just brings a ton of people, and it's actually not a winning kind of revenue day for us, but from a brand standpoint, people are just like, "Oh my God, I saw that," and they'll talk about it forever. And you just get kind of more impacted kind of brand love from something like that. So we try to do things in our touch points that are just unique and different. Our New York City sales guy had a jean shorts beer tasting, and nobody wears jean shorts anymore. We explained to him, and he said, that's exactly why we're doing it. So they're jorts. If you were wondering what the
Wait, so you're saying the fact that I wear jean shorts, it's not in fashion right now? You're telling me something new here, John.
You'd be welcome at the brewery. So
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's it. It's like we try not to feel like a brand, like a spend brand. We try to feel like a just kind of more less. We're paying for somebody to jump on board. More, we're kind of in this shared kind of space that is really fun, really different, really, great lifestyle, great things that we associate with. It's kind of, you can feel it, you can see it. And it definitely becomes easy when it's a craft brewery, and we do a lot of things on the North Fork, with our social media. That's a big connection. People, are in their offices in Manhattan, or at least they were pre-pandemic. And they are like, "Oh my God, I would love to be back on the North Fork right now." So I think kind of reasserting that as our location. We have a series on Instagram where we make beer, and it's always these shots that are beautiful, but they're everywhere here. They're the easiest to find because the North Fork is so scenic and amazing.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's interesting. It's, and I'm a self-hating ad person, so I always think I could do so much better with how we do things. But you're chasing down a lot of things in the course of a day. So, but I'm really happy my wife gives us a ton of help on social media as well. So it's a collective, and our brew house staff is hilarious with the pictures they take as well. So,
well, it's as you're telling this story, John, like, your branding, it's your dog jump day. It's having kid friendly events, jean shorts. It's just fun. It's just lifestyle. And then, you have a tremendous asset in just the location of Greenport and the feel, and the flavor that's Greenport.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot to work with, thankfully. Yeah, it is.
Your palate is rich. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. People seem to have kids, people have dogs, Greenport's amazing. So people visit it. So there's a lot for us to attach to. So it's really good. And, we have our charitable function, which is, when you open a brewery, you immediately get immersed with requests for beer and gifts and stuff like that. And, there's so many great charities that we would love to help with, but pretty quickly we, found that we had to narrow it down. So our 3 pillars for charity are, kids, cancer, and anything local. So if any of those 3, we really try to be 100% in our responses with that. And that's been a big part of our, I think, success as well, is just being kind of, as giving as we can be, really getting involved with the charities that we work with.
Well, that's your giving tank, right? I saw that on the site.
That's our giving tank. Good. You did very good research. Yeah, thank you.
Well, listen. If you're a restaurant, if you have a product or service, you get hit up a lot, obviously. And there's never a shortage of great causes, as you said, but you identified the 3 pillars that make sense for the brand. I'm very glad our paths have crossed. Again, we both went to Chaminade again here locally on Long Island. So I'm glad I was able to reach out and connect and have you on today. Your story is just a great story. It really is. And I admire how you guys had the courage to just push the stack of chips into the center of the table. So let me ask one more.
Okay.
And I always love to ask this question because it could be a great learning moment, for the listeners who, the wannabe entrepreneur, the current startup who could be struggling. So you guys have fortunately put yourself in a good position. You started in the financial crisis of 2008. You are where you are today with 2 locations. If you have to look back, if you had a mulligan or a do-over, what would it be?
So, well, I guess it would be it's really hard to kind of rewrite, and
sure.
And in your head think. I mean, some of the things that I'm envious of are the more destination-driven breweries where you're purely destination. You're not engaging in the distribution model, because distribution is a really tough road. It's like, getting out there, selling long nights, early mornings. They take 1/3 of, what you're basically charging to the customer.
That's
or
rough,
to the bar or the restaurant. It's a big cut.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a great job. I'm not diminishing distribution, but it is like it's a lot of work, and I think that might be it. Like just sticking more to doing all on-premise stuff and maybe multiple locations might be something that I would have thought about, but we're not going to change that now, and we can. So I
sure
can't that strongly about it if we're not making that shift. But I think every day was a learning moment, from the beginning to the end. And anybody out there who's thinking of doing this in any form, I'm sure there's 100 voices in your head that are saying no.
Yeah.
Don't listen to them. Don't listen. Just go. Just do it. I mean, I remember, early on, the Montauk guys came to a beer show and they hadn't started yet, and they were like, what do you think? And we said that same thing. It's like, just go. There's going to be, thousands of things that are trying to stop you. Just keep pushing and go. And they're doing fantastic. So I think it's really just kind of sticking to what you believe in and getting it done. So the mulligan, I don't know.
It's a tough question. It's not an easy one.
It is. You know what? I feel so fortunate with our success and what we've been able to do. And it would kind of in my head maybe think that, I don't feel as fortunate, but I do. So I think, given what we knew and more importantly, the fact that we knew so little when we got going, that overall it's been a great road. And I don't think I would change now. It might have been something I would have looked at a little harder as we scaled up, but we wouldn't have our 3-acre property in Peconic that has a restaurant and a massive field and saved our butts during the pandemic because people could be outside in the space,
Yeah.
So there were so many different kind of things that came as a part of the course we chose that we wouldn't have if we'd kind of stayed really small in destination. But yeah. All right. Well, I hope that was an answer.
Well, listen, John, first of all, it's a local Long Island success story, which I'm always partial towards. And any great entrepreneurial success story, I love to share. If it's a Long Island one, I have a special connection to, obviously. And you know what? I loved, your energy, your passion for what you do, and you were real. You guys didn't know everything. There was, as you said earlier, hey, was there some stupidity before getting involved? We didn't know everything, our business plan, so on and so forth. And that's just it. It's never going to be perfect. But like you told the guys from, I think you said Montauk, just do it. Just jump in,
Yeah.
Great story. Congrats on the success.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Real quick, how can people follow the story, follow you guys, enjoy some of that delicious beer? How do they get in touch?
Yeah. So, thankfully we're available pretty much through all the mass chains on Long Island into New York City. We're parts of Connecticut, New Jersey. But really Long Island is our stronghold. Manhattan's our stronghold. So you can find us at most of the, larger supermarkets on Long Island. You can absolutely come to the brewery. And if you see me, Tim, we're going to have a beer together.
Awesome.
And I hope that too shows up. It's an easy thing to offer. Share a beer. Pretty good.
Great way to build friendships. Yep.
No doubt.
Awesome.
Yep.
John, thanks so much for being on board the Profit Express today.
All right, Tim. Thank you.
All right. And this is the Profit Express. And don't forget, each and every Wednesday, we're downloading great shows like the one I just had with John Liegey, who is a co-founder of Greenport Harbor Brewing. And you can follow me in the show on Instagram at The Profit Express, on Twitter at Profit_Express. And we always have to thank some of our biggest fans, our supporters, just like the folks at Corbett Public Relations, who have been promoting and protecting businesses and brands for over 30 years. So please reach out to them. Please say hello to them at CorbettPR.com. That's CorbettPR.com. And until next week, each and every day, let's go out there to win the battle for business. This is the Profit Express.